So now we talk about shift versus movement along the supply curve. So same idea. The supply curve gives us a graphical relationship between quantity supplied and price, other things equal. And supply, just supply, gives us the entire relationship between quantity of some commodity that producers are willing to sell and the price of that commodity, other things equal. So now let's talk about change in quantity supply. Well, we know that the supply curve is upward sloping. So I'm going to sketch a supply curve right here. So again, price is in our y-axis and quantity is on our x-axis. And our supply curve is upward sloping. I would call this guy S. So let's say at $3, sellers or producers are willing to produce or sell, say, around 15,000 units. And I will call this point A. And let's say price increased from $3 to, what do I have here? I have here $6, okay? And I call this point B. Given the increase in price, sellers are willing to sell more, say to around 20,000 units. So we see here that a change in price, in this case an increase in price, triggers an increase in quantity supplied from 15,000 to 20,000 units. And what we see here is a movement along the supply curve from points A to B. This, my friends, is what we call a change in supply. And this is because of changes in price. Now, what about a change in supply? So same idea as in demand. Okay? So change in supply is a shift of the supply curve. So let me show you what's going on there. So let's say we have here price and quantity. And our supply curve is upward sloping. I will call this S. And we know from our previous graph here is that at $3, sellers are willing to produce or sell 15,000 units. Now suppose that for the same price of $3, we observe that, I will call this point A, we observe that for the same price of $3, sellers are willing to sell twice the amount, 30,000 units. So what must have happened? Well, the only conclusion here is that since price didn't change, it's still at $3, so there's no change in quantity supplied here. So our conclusion here is that the supply curve must have shifted to the right. And I will call this S2, and this is point B. And by the way, here, this is not change in supply, this is change in quantity supplied. Okay. And let me erase this. Change in quantity supplied. This guy right here is our change in supply. And what happens here is that for this particular case, we see a shift in the supply curve to the right. So that concludes our video on shift versus movement along the curves. I hope you enjoyed the video.